Let's travel back in time, deep into the ancient world. Imagine a quiet morning, tens of thousands of years ago. The sun, a soft, golden orb, is just beginning to climb over the horizon, casting its first light on a small settlement nestled in a vast, untamed landscape. This could be anywhere from the icy plains of Siberia during the last ice age, to a fertile valley where the first seeds of agriculture are being sown. The air is crisp and clean, filled with the gentle sounds of the awakening world, soft breeze rustling through tall grasses, the distant call of a bird, the low murmur of a nearby river. In the heart of this settlement, a central work area is coming to life. Women gather, their movements practiced and unhurried. They are mothers, sisters, daughters, the keepers of essential knowledge passed down through countless generations. Before them lies the day's primary task, a labor that is both demanding and meditative. Preparing animal hides. This scene, in one form or another, was a universal constant for our prehistoric ancestors. From the mammoth hunters of the north to the gazelle stalkers of the Levant, the ability to process hides was not just a skill, it was the key to survival. Hide processing was one of humanity's oldest and most vital technologies. Think about it. Before woven textiles, what did people use for clothing, for shelter, for bedding, for bags to carry their food and tools? It was all leather. The warmth of a fur-lined cloak was the difference between life and death in a freezing winter. A sturdy leather tent provided shelter from wind and rain. Soft, pliable deerskin made comfortable shoes for traversing rough terrain. Every single part of a hunted animal was used, and the hide was one of the most precious resources of all. The process you're about to witness is a reconstruction of this ancient craft. It began, as it does today, with a fresh hide, but transforming a raw, stiff, and perishable skin into a soft, durable material is a long and arduous journey. It requires patience, strength, and a deep understanding of natural chemistry. The women gathering this morning are not just laborers, they are highly skilled artisans. They know the secrets of the craft, secrets that have been tested and refined over millennia. Look closely at their tools. They are simple, yet perfectly suited for the task. Scrapers made from flint, obsidian, or even bone. Each one has been carefully knapped to create a sharp, effective edge. The shape and size of the scraper would vary depending on the stage of the process and the type of hide being worked. A large, heavy-duty scraper for the initial, tough work of removing flesh and fat, and a smaller, more refined tool for the delicate task of thinning the hide to the perfect thickness. Holding one of these ancient tools in your hand, you can feel a direct connection to the person who made and used it so long ago. You can almost feel the rhythm of their work. The first step is fleshing. The hide is draped over a smooth log or a purpose-built beaming pole. With rhythmic downward strokes, the women begin to scrape away the inner layer of fat, muscle, and membrane. It's hard, physical work. The smell is earthy and raw. This has to be done thoroughly, as any remaining flesh would cause the hide to rot. It's a process that requires focus and endurance, a steady rhythm that could last for hours. As they work, they might chat softly, share stories, or sing, turning a solitary chore into a communal activity, strengthening the bonds of their small group. Once fleshed, the next challenge is removing the hair. For some purposes, like a warm winter cloak, the hair was left on. But for most uses, like making pliable leather for clothing or containers, it had to be removed. This was often done by soaking the hide in a solution of wood, ash, and water, or sometimes just plain water, a process called bucking. This alkaline solution would loosen the hair follicles, making them easier to scrape off. After a few days of soaking, the hide would be taken out and laid hair side up. Using a duller scraping tool, the women would push the hair off in big, satisfying clumps. Now, the hide is bare, but it's not yet leather. It's a pale, translucent sheet called rawhide. If you let it dry at this stage, it would become incredibly stiff and hard, useful for things like drumheads or shield coverings, but not for clothing. To make it soft and pliable, it needs to be tanned, and our ancient ancestors were masters of brain tanning. It sounds strange, but it was an incredibly effective method. Every animal possesses enough brain matter to tan its own hide. The brain contains lecithin and other natural oils that are powerful emulsifying agents. They coat the fibers of the hide, preventing them from sticking together and turning hard as they dry. The brain would be mashed into a paste, often mixed with water and sometimes other ingredients, like smoked liver or soap root, creating a soupy mixture. The hide would be submerged in this concoction and left to soak, allowing the brain oils to penetrate deep into the fibrous structure. The women would periodically work the hide, stretching it and wringing it out to ensure even absorption. It was a messy, smelly job, but absolutely crucial. After the braining solution has done its work, the most physically demanding part of the process begins. Softening. The damp hide must be continuously stretched, pulled, and worked as it dries. This is what keeps the fibers from gluing together. Women would work in pairs, pulling the hide back and forth over a taut rope or a sharpened post. They would use smooth, rounded stones to rub the surface, a process called staking. Their entire bodies would be engaged in this dance with the hide, a rhythmic struggle against its natural tendency to harden. It's a race against time. If they stop before it's completely dry, all their previous work would be for nothing. As the last of the moisture evaporates, a magical transformation occurs. The stiff, translucent rawhide becomes a soft, white, and wonderfully supple material. Buckskin. It's warm, breathable, and incredibly strong. It feels almost like a soft chamois or velvet. The finished product is a testament to their skill and perseverance. A piece of buckskin represents hours, even days, of dedicated labor. It represents warmth, protection, and a deep connection to the natural world. The final step for many hides was smoking. The white buckskin, while beautiful, is highly absorbent. A single drop of rain could make it stiff again. Smoking the hide seals it, making it water-resistant. A small, smoky fire of punky, rotten wood would be made in a pit, and the hide would be sewn into a cone or a bag and suspended over it. The smoke would permeate the leather, turning it a beautiful golden or reddish-brown color and giving it that classic, pleasant smoky smell. This process also helped to preserve the hide, protecting it from insects and decay. A smoked hide could get wet, and, with a little stretching, would dry soft again. This entire process, from a raw skin to a finished, smoked piece of buckskin, was a cornerstone of ancient life. It was a technology that allowed our ancestors to thrive in every corner of the globe. As you watch this quiet morning unfold, remember that you're not just seeing a primitive chore. You are witnessing an act of creation, a display of incredible knowledge, and a ritual of survival that connected our ancestors directly to the world around them. It's a story written not in books, but in the very fabric of the clothes they wore and the shelters that kept them safe. Thanks for joining us on this journey back in time. If you found this fascinating, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into our ancient past. Imagine a world without your favorite jacket, your comfy shoes, or even the backpack you carry your stuff in. No factories, no synthetic fabrics, no online shopping. How would you survive? For our ancestors, the answer wasn't found in a store, but on the backs of the animals they hunted. Animal hides were the super material of the ancient world, the key to survival in some of the planet's harshest environments. Today, we're diving deep into why these seemingly simple materials were one of the most important technologies in human history. Let's start with the most obvious use: clothing. In a world without central heating, staying warm wasn't a luxury. It was a matter of life and death. A well-made fur cloak could mean the difference between surviving a brutal winter and freezing. But it wasn't just about warmth. Hides were tough. Think about walking through thorny bushes or scrambling over sharp rocks. A sturdy leather tunic or leggings offered protection that woven plant fibers just couldn't match. And on their feet, they wore moccasins or simple hide boots, protecting them from rough terrain, cold ground, and a whole lot of potential injuries. It was practical, durable, and literally the first line of defense against the elements. But the uses for hides went far beyond just what people wore. Need to carry water back to camp. A hide could be sewn into a watertight bag. Need to store gathered nuts, berries, or dried meat for the lean months. You'd use a rawhide container, a sort of prehistoric Tupperware that was light, strong, and kept pests out. These weren't just simple sacks. They were vital tools for food security. When night fell, a soft, fur and hide served as a warm blanket, a crucial piece of bedding that conserved precious body heat. Imagine sleeping on the cold, hard ground without one. The comfort and insulation provided by a hide bed were essential for a good night's rest, which meant being ready and energized for the next day's challenges. Now, let's think bigger. How do you build a home when you're a nomadic or a semi-nomadic group, constantly on the move to follow game or find new resources? You can't exactly pack up a log cabin. This is where hides became the walls and roof of their world. Think of the iconic tipis of the Great Plains, the yurts of Central Asia, or the simple lean-tos used by countless hunter-gatherer groups. These shelters were frameworks of wood poles covered with meticulously stitched-together hides. This design was genius. It was relatively lightweight, portable, and surprisingly weatherproof. The hides, once properly treated, could shed rain and block wind effectively. A single shelter, like a tipi, might require a dozen or more bison hides. This mobile architecture allowed entire communities to follow the herds and adapt to changing seasons, a lifestyle that would have been impossible without this versatile building material. Beyond immediate survival, hides also became a form of wealth. They were a fundamental currency in early economies. If one group had a surplus of high-quality deer hides but needed obsidian for tool-making, they could trade. Furs from animals like beaver, fox, or mink were especially valuable, not just for their warmth, but for their beauty and status. Owning and wearing luxurious furs could signify a person's skill as a hunter, their wealth, or their social standing. This trade network connected different groups, allowing them to exchange not just goods, but also ideas, technologies, and culture across vast distances. Hides were literally the fabric that wove early societies together. Given how incredibly important hides were, you can probably guess that turning a raw, bloody animal skin into a soft, durable piece of leather or a warm fur wasn't a simple task. Hide preparation, or tanning, was one of the most sophisticated and labor-intensive domestic technologies of the time. It was a multi-step scientific process passed down through generations, often managed by the women of the community. First, the hide had to be fleshed. This was a grueling work of scraping off every last bit of fat, muscle, and membrane from the inner side of the skin, using sharp tools made of stone, bone, or antler. If any of this was left on, the hide would rot. Next, if you wanted leather instead of a fur, the hair had to be removed. The hide would be soaked in water, sometimes with ash, to loosen the hair, which was then scraped off. This was another physically demanding step. The most critical stage was tanning itself. This is the process that permanently alters the protein structure of the skin to prevent it from decaying and turning stiff when it dries. Early people discovered several methods. One of the most effective was brain tanning. They would make a paste using the animal's own brain, which is rich in oils and emulsifiers, and work it deep into the fibers of the hide. Other methods involved using smoke, which contains aldehydes that tan the skin, or soaking the hide in water with certain types of bark and leaves that are rich in tannin. But even after tanning, the work wasn't over. To make the hide soft and pliable, it had to be stretched, pulled, and worked continuously as it dried. This could involve stretching it on a frame, pulling it back and forth over a rope or a smooth log, or having several people pull on it for hours. It was an exhausting process that required strength, patience, and incredible skill. The final product, whether it was buttery soft buckskin for a shirt or a tough rawhide for a shield, was a testament to this incredible ancient technology. So from the shoes on their feet to the roofs over their heads, from the bags that carried their food to the blankets that kept them warm at night, animal hides were absolutely central to the survival and success of our ancestors. The ability to transform a raw skin into a durable, versatile material was a technological breakthrough as important as the control of fire or the invention of the bow and arrow. It allowed humans to thrive in climates they otherwise couldn't have, to build mobile societies, and to create complex economies. Next time you put on a leather jacket, take a moment to appreciate the incredible journey of that material and the ancient ingenuity it represents. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this journey into the past as fascinating as I did, do you want to forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the history of how we became who we are today? See you in the next one. Have you ever looked at an ancient artifact, maybe a piece of pottery or a woven basket, and just marveled at the skill it took to create it? We often focus on the object itself, the final product. But what if we shifted our focus to the hands that made it, and more importantly, the community that surrounded those hands? Welcome to Chapter 3 of our journey, where we explore the vibrant communities behind these ancient crafts. Today, we're diving deep into the social world of prehistoric and early historic communities, particularly shining a light on the incredible roles women played. Far from being isolated artists, these women were the heart of a bustling, collaborative network. Crafting wasn't just a solo hobby. It was a communal activity, a social glue that held societies together. Imagine a group of women gathered together, their hands busy with clay or fibers. The air wouldn't just be filled with the sounds of their work, but also with chatter, laughter, and shared stories. This wasn't just about getting the work done faster. It was about connection. In many ancient cultures, tasks like spinning, weaving, and pottery were often done in groups. This created a powerful space for women to bond, support each other, and share the burdens and joys of daily life. Think of it as a prehistoric stitching circle or a pottery cope. While their hands were shaping a pot or spinning thread, they were also weaving the very fabric of their community. This shared labor was a cornerstone of their social lives, a time for solidarity and friendship. One of the most beautiful aspects of this communal crafting was the passing down of knowledge. These weren't skills you could learn from a book or a video tutorial. They were trade secrets, techniques, and artistic traditions passed directly from one generation to the next. A grandmother would guide her granddaughter's hands, showing her the right pressure to apply to the clay. A mother would teach her daughter the intricate patterns of their tribe's weaving. Patterns that told stories of their ancestors, their beliefs, and their world. This oral and hands-on transmission of knowledge was crucial. It ensured that skills honed over centuries were not lost. Every pot, every textile, wasn't just a functional object. It was a living library, a tangible connection to the past, the muscle memory, the intuitive feel for the material. The secret to a perfect glaze. These were precious heirlooms, passed from mentor to apprentice, from elder to youth. This process didn't just preserve a craft, it preserved an entire cultural identity. The patterns woven into a blanket could signify family lineage, social status, or be a prayer for a good harvest. Now, let's talk about the atmosphere of this work. We might imagine it as noisy and chaotic, but often it was a space of quiet, focused collaboration. There's a certain rhythm to communal labor, a shared meditative state that can be incredibly powerful. Picture a group of weavers at Engehovim looms. The gentle, rhythmic click-clack of the shuttles creates a soothing soundscape. In this shared silence, there's a deep, unspoken understanding. Each person is focused on their task, yet they are acutely aware of the others around them, working in harmony toward a common goal. This quiet industry was culturally significant. It was a demonstration of discipline, patience, and unity. It taught younger generations the value of focused effort and the beauty of creating something together. This wasn't about individual glory or being the star artist. It was about contributing to the well-being of the whole community. The pots they made would hold food and water for their families. The textiles they wove would clothe and warm their children. The work was deeply meaningful because it was an act of care, an act of service to the people they loved. The economic impact of this communal work was also immense. By working together, women could produce goods more efficiently. This might lead to a surplus that could be traded with neighboring villages, bringing new resources and wealth into their community. These women weren't just crafters. They were entrepreneurs, economists, and diplomats, managing a vital part of their society's economy. Their collective workshop was a hub of production and a source of economic stability. The quality and beauty of their work could even bring prestige and honor to their entire tribe or village. So, when we look at that ancient pot in the museum, let's try to see beyond the object. Let's see the circle of women who shaped it. Let's hear the echoes of their conversations, the wisdom passed from an elder's lips, and the quiet rhythm of their shared work. These artifacts are not silent. They speak of community, collaboration, and the enduring power of women's hands working together. They are a testament to the fact that for much of human history, the most beautiful and essential things were not made by lone geniuses, but by the collective strength and creativity of a community. The story of craft is the story of people. It's a story of shared knowledge, mutual support, and the quiet, powerful bonds that are forged when we create something so. Thank you so much for joining me for this chapter. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of our ancestors. We'll see you next time. Have you ever wondered what it was like to survive in the Stone Age? Forget complex machinery. For our ancestors, the most essential tools came directly from nature, and one of the most ingenious was the bone scraper. It might sound simple, but this tool was a masterpiece of prehistoric engineering, crucial for everyday life. So, what exactly is a bone scraper? Imagine a tool, perfectly crafted to fit in the palm of your hand, designed for tasks like cleaning animal hides, processing food, or even shaping wood. These weren't just any old bones. Prehistoric people were master craftsmen and knew exactly which bones to choose. They favored the strong, dense leg bones of large herbivores, like deer, elk, bison, and even the mighty caribou and mammoth. These bones were robust and could withstand immense pressure without shattering. The process of creating a bone scraper was a testament to their skill and patience. It all started with selecting the right piece of bone. Once a suitable leg bone was acquired, the first step was to break it down. This wasn't random smashing. They would strike the bone with a heavy stone, a hammer stone, at just the right angle to create a long, usable shard. This initial break was crucial. A good break meant less work later on. They aimed for a piece with a natural curve that could potentially form the handle, and a relatively straight edge that could be sharpened. Once they had their rough blank, the real artistry began. This is where shaping, or pecking, and grinding came in. Using a coarse-grained rock like sandstone or quartzite, they would meticulously grind the bone against the stone's surface. Think of it like using modern sandpaper, but far more labor-intensive. They would rub the bone back and forth, slowly abrading the surface, shaping it into the desired form. They'd de-smooth out the rough edges from the initial break and begin to define the tool's final shape. One of the most remarkable aspects of bone scrapers is how ergonomic they were. Our ancestors understood the importance of a comfortable grip long before the word ergonomics was ever invented. As they ground the bone, they would constantly check its fit in their hand. They would shape one end to be rounded and smooth, designed to nestle perfectly in the palm. This allowed them to apply significant force for hours without causing blisters or strain. This attention to comfort and usability tells us they weren't just making a tool. They were making a trusted companion for their daily tasks. The handle was just as important as the blade. After the overall shape was perfected, the focus shifted to the business end, the working edge. The goal was to create a sharp, durable blade. This was achieved through more grinding, but with a finer touch. They would use a finer-grained stone to sharpen the edge, carefully working it to the right angle. It didn't need to be razor-sharp like a flint knife, but it needed to be sturdy and effective for scraping away fat and tissue from a hide without tearing the leather. The angle of the edge was critical. Too steep, and it wouldn't scrape effectively. Too shallow, and it would wear down too quickly. But how do you sharpen a bone tool once it's made? Over time, the edge would naturally become dull with use. Sharpening, or resharpening, was a continuous process. The owner of the scraper would simply find a suitable grinding stone and give the edge a few passes to restore its effectiveness. You can often see evidence of this on archaeological finds, microscopic striations, and polish on the tool's edge, telling a story of its long life and repeated maintenance. What's truly amazing is the durability of these bone tools. You might think of bone as brittle, but the dense cortical bone from a large mammal's leg is incredibly tough and resilient. When properly shaped, it could last for years, becoming a personal and valued possession. Unlike stone tools, which could shatter if dropped or struck incorrectly, bone had a certain flexibility. It could absorb shock and pressure, making it ideal for the repetitive, forceful motions of scraping. Let's put this into context. Imagine a hunter has just brought back a large elk. The hide needs to be prepared to make clothing, shelter, or containers. This is where the bone scraper shines. First, the hide is laid out, fleshy side up. Using the scraper, the person would lean into the tool, using their body weight to systematically scrape away every last bit of fat, muscle, and connective tissue. The curved, smooth handle allows them to do this for a long time, while the sturdy, sharpened edge does the work efficiently. The end result is a clean hide, ready for the next stage of tanning. Without this simple yet perfect tool, this essential task would have been nearly impossible. These scrapers weren't just for hides. They were multi-purpose tools. A smaller, more pointed scraper could be used for delicate work, like cleaning sinew for use as thread or cordage. A broader, heavier scraper might be used to strip bark from wood or even to process plant fibers for making baskets. The versatility of the bone scraper made it an indispensable part of the prehistoric toolkit. When archaeologists unearth these tools today, they are like windows into the past. The polish on the handle tells us how it was held. The wear on the blade tells us what it was used for. The type of bone tells us about the animals that roamed the landscape. Each scraper is a personal story of survival, ingenuity, and a deep connection to the natural world. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the simplest solutions are the most brilliant. The bone scraper is a perfect example of how our ancestors used their intelligence and skill to create exactly what they needed from the world around them. So next time you think about advanced technology, take a moment to appreciate the simple genius of the bone scraper. A piece of bone, shaped beyond, that helped humanity thrive for thousands of years. It's a beautiful testament to human innovation. Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this journey into the past, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into history. See you next time. Welcome back to our journey into the old ways. Today, we're diving into Chapter 5, Preparing the Fresh Hide. This is where the real work begins, a process that connects us directly to the rhythms of nature and the skills of our ancestors. We've just carefully removed the hide from the animal. Every step so far has been done with respect and purpose, and that continues now. The hide is still warm, heavy, and pliable in my hands. The air is filled with the earthy, metallic scent of the fresh Kila primal smell that's both raw and honest. It's not unpleasant, just very real. This is the scent of life, of sustenance. Our first task is to get this hide stretched out. The ground here is flat and clear, perfect for the job. I'm laying it flesh side up. See how it naturally wants to curl back on itself? We need to work against that, to stretch it taut, so we can properly clean and prepare it for tanning. The texture of the flesh side is slick and slightly uneven, a mosaic of muscle tissue and fat that we'll soon address. On the other side, the fur is thick and soft, a reminder of the beautiful animal it came from. To hold it in place, we won't be using modern tools. We're relying on what nature provides. I have a collection of smooth, heavy river stones and some sturdy wooden pegs. I've sharpened. The traditional method is to make small incisions along the very edge of the hide, just big enough to push a peg through. I'll start at one corner, pushing a peg firmly into the earth. Then I'll move to the opposite corner, pulling the hide as tight as I can before securing it. It's a two-person job ideally, but with patience, you can manage it alone. You have to find a rhythm. Pull, stretch, peg, move to the next spot. Pull, stretch, peg. It's a slow, methodical process. You can't rush this. If you pull too hard in one spot, you risk tearing the hide, especially around the thinner belly areas. It's a delicate balance of strength and finesse. As I work my way around the perimeter, the hide begins to look like a canvas, a map of the animal's life spread out before me. Instead of pegs, or in addition to them, you can use heavy stones. I'll place them along the edges, especially in areas where the hide is thick and needs extra weight to keep it from shrinking as it dries. The cool, solid weight of the stones feels grounding. Each one is a small anchor, holding our work steady. There's no power tools, no loud noises, just the soft thud of the mallet driving in the pegs, the scrape of stones on the ground, and the gentle whisper of the wind. This initial stretching is crucial. It creates a flat, stable surface for the next, and perhaps most laborious step, Fleshing. By stretching it now, we make it much easier to scrape away the remaining fat and membrane. You can already see the tension across the surface. It's transforming from a formless, heavy skin into a workable material. The scents are starting to change, too. As the hide cools and the air circulates, the initial strong smell begins to mellow, replaced by a more subtle, leathery aroma. It's the smell of potential. This raw, organic material holds the promise of becoming so many things. Warm clothing, sturdy shelter, durable bags, or bindings. But that's all in the future. For now, we are here, in this moment, focused on this single, essential task. Look at the surface, now that it's fully stretched. You can trace the lines of the muscles, see the different thicknesses of the skin. The neck and shoulder area is incredibly thick and tough, while the flanks are much thinner. Understanding this topography is key to working the hide effectively. Every hide tells a story, and our job is to listen and respond with our hands. This part of the process is not glamorous. It's hard work, it's messy, and it takes time. But there's a deep satisfaction in it. It's a connection to a cycle of life and death, of transformation and creation. You're not just making something, you're participating in an ancient tradition. Your hands are doing the same work that countless generations have done before you. There's a quiet meditation in this rhythm. Peg, stretch, adjust. Your mind clears, and all that exists is the hide, the earth, and your own two hands. You become acutely aware of the texture under your fingers, the tension in the skin, the cool breeze on your face. It's a powerful way to feel grounded and present. Now that the hide is fully stretched and secured, we'll let it sit for a short while. This allows it to cool completely and settle into its stretched form before we begin the intense work of fleshing. This pause is important. It lets us step back, assess our work, and prepare for the next stage. Join me next time as we pick up our scraping tools and begin the meticulous process of cleaning this hide, preparing it for the magic of tanning. It's going to be a lot of elbow grease, but the result will be worth every bit of effort. Thanks for being here, for sharing in this process. Don't forget to follow along for the next chapter of our journey. See you soon. Welcome to Chapter 6, where we explore the soft rhythms of scraping. In the quiet corners of the community, a timeless craft unfolds. Here, women gather, their hands skilled and their spirits connected, to begin the meticulous process of hide scraping. They kneel or sit comfortably, their postures a testament to years of practice and tradition. The air is filled with a unique, almost meditative sound. The soft, repetitive scrape of tools against hide. It's a sound that becomes a calming background hum, a rhythm that dictates the pace of the day. The tool, often a scraper made from bone, stone, or later, metal, is held firmly. With practiced ease, it's pulled towards the body in long, steady strokes. Each pull is deliberate, a dance of pressure and precision. The goal is to remove every last bit of unwanted material, the layers of fat, the residual tissue, and the thin, persistent membrane that clings to the inner surface of the hide. It's a task that requires both strength and a delicate touch. Too much force, and the hide could be gouged or torn. Too little, and the impurities remain, compromising the final quality of the leather. As they work, a gentle murmur of conversation flows among the women. They share stories, offer advice, and laugh softly. This isn't just labor, it's a social gathering, a time for bonding and reinforcing community ties. The talk is as soft and steady as the scraping itself, weaving in and out of the rhythmic sounds of their work. They might discuss their families, the goings-on in the village, or share tips on how to handle a particularly tough or greasy spot on a hide. This communal atmosphere turns a laborious task into a shared, almost therapeutic experience. Imagine the scene. A circle of women, their focus intent on the hides, spread before them. The sun might be casting long shadows, or they might be working in the shade of a large tree or a specially constructed shelter. The scent of the hides, a raw and earthy smell, mingles with the clean air. The scraping continues. Stroke after stroke, shavings of fat and tissue pile up beside them, evidence of their patient progress. Each clean patch of hide revealed is a small victory, a step closer to creating a beautiful and durable material. The process is a lesson in mindfulness. The women are completely present in their work. Their hands know the feel of the hide, the resistance of the tissue, the exact angle to hold the scraper. They can tell by touch when a section is clean, when the surface is smooth and ready for the next stage of tanning. It's a sensory experience, guided by knowledge passed down through generations. Young girls often sit beside their mothers or grandmothers, watching and learning. They might be given a small piece of hide to practice on, their clumsy first attempts guided by gentle hands and encouraging words. This is how the tradition is preserved. It's not written in books, but in the muscle memory of the workers, in the shared stories, and in the tangible results of their labor. The sound of scraping is the heartbeat of this tradition. It's a rhythm that speaks of diligence, community, and the transformation of a raw, natural material into something of immense value and utility. It's a sound that connects the past to the present, a continuous thread in the fabric of their culture. The physical demands are significant. Kneeling or sitting for long hours, applying constant pressure, it requires endurance. Yet, there's a grace to their movement, an efficiency born from a deep understanding of the task. They work in harmony, not just with each other, but with the materials themselves. They understand the nature of the hide, respecting its strengths and weaknesses. This respect is fundamental to their craft. As the day progresses, the piles of cleaned hides grow. Each one is a testament to the collective effort, a perfect canvas, ready for the tanning process that will turn it into soft buckskin, sturdy rawhide, or warm fur. The soft talk continues, a gentle counterpoint to the steady scraping. The community is strengthened, knowledge is passed on, and a vital skill is kept alive. The rhythm of the scrapers is more than just a sound. It is the sound of survival, of culture, of life itself. It's a quiet symphony of work and connection, playing out day after day. And so, the scraping goes on. Long, rhythmic strokes, pulling inward, cleaning, smoothing, preparing. It's a process that is both physically demanding and deeply satisfying. The transformation is slow, but profound. From a raw, unrefined skin to a clean, supple canvas, ready to be made into clothing, shelter, or tools. The soft rhythms of scraping are the first, crucial notes in this ancient song of creation, a beautiful and enduring part of human ingenuity. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey into the past interesting, please like, share, and subscribe for more chapters. See you next time. Welcome back to our journey into the world of traditional tanning. Today, we're diving deep into Chapter 7. Tools for every stage. It's one thing to know the steps of hide tanning, but it's another to understand the specialized tools that make it all possible. These aren't just random objects. Each one was ingeniously designed for a specific, crucial task. So, let's roll up our sleeves and explore the prehistoric toolbox that transformed raw hides into usable leather. First up, let's talk about the initial, and perhaps messiest part of the process. Fleshing. After an animal was skinned, the hide wasn't ready to go straight into tanning. It was covered with leftover flesh, fat, and connective tissue. If you left that stuff on, the hide would rot and the tanning agents couldn't penetrate properly. So, our ancestors needed a way to clean it all off, and this is where the fleshing scraper comes in. Imagine a tool, often made from a large, sturdy bone like the cannon bone of a deer or an elk. This bone would be split lengthwise, and one end would be sharpened, but not into a knife-like edge. You don't want to cut the hide, you want to scrape it. The edge would be beveled, creating a surface that could get underneath the fat and flesh and literally push it off the skin. The user would lay the hide over a smooth log or a specially prepared fleshing beam, drape the hide flesh side up, and then, using their body weight, lean into the scraper and push downward. It's a physically demanding job, requiring a lot of elbow grease. The design of the fleshing scraper, with its specific curve and dull but effective edge, was a masterpiece of function, allowing for efficient cleaning without damaging the precious hide. Once the flesh was removed, the next major step was often dealing with the hair. Depending on what the final leather was for, You might want to keep the hair on for a warm blanket or cloak, or remove it for something like moccasins or a water bag. If hair removal was the goal, our ancestors had another set of specialized tools. First, the hide was soaked in a solution, often an alkaline mixture of wood ash and water, which would loosen the hair follicles. After soaking for a few days, the hair could be scraped off. This is where another brilliant tool, the Deharian scraper, comes into play. It looked similar to a fleshing scraper, but was often duller or had a slightly different angle. You don't need a sharp edge here at all. You're essentially squeegeeing the loosened hair off the epidermis. Sometimes, a simple piece of rib bone or even a smooth, flat rock would do the trick. The key was to apply even pressure across the surface of the hide to get all the hair in the outer layer of skin, the epidermis, off. This process is called scudding. Removing the epidermis was crucial because it's a waterproof layer, and if left on, it would prevent the tanning agents from soaking into the hide's fiber structure. So, this simple scraper was vital for preparing the hide for a proper tan. Now, let's talk about the workbench for these tasks. The beaming board, or fleshing beam. You couldn't just do this work on the flat, dirty ground. You needed a smooth, elevated, and supportive surface. The fleshing beam was typically a log, about 6 to 8 feet long, stripped of its bark and smoothed down to prevent any splinters from tearing the hide. One end would be propped up on a forked stick or a tripod, raising it to about waist height, while the other end rested on the ground. The tanner would stand at the high end, draping the hide over the beam. This angled setup used gravity to their advantage. It also allowed them to use their body weight to press down with the scrapers, making the physically demanding work of fleshing and dohairing much more efficient and ergonomic. The curve of the log also matched the natural motion of scraping, providing a perfect surface to work on. It's a simple, yet profoundly effective, piece of equipment. After all that scraping, the hide, now called a rawhide, was clean, but still stiff and not yet leather. The next phase was to introduce the tanning agent. This could be anything from brains to bark tea. And for this, our ancient tanners had another clever invention: the tanning basket. Now, don't picture a modern woven basket. This was more like a waterproof container made from a large hide itself. A large, thick hide, perhaps from an old bison or moose, would be suspended between 4 stakes driven into the ground, forming a basin. The edges would be folded up and secured, creating a watertight vessel. Into this hide basin, the tanner would pour their tanning solution, maybe a rich, dark liquid made from boiled oak bark, or a creamy emulsion of animal brains and water. Then, the hides being tanned were placed inside. The beauty of the tanning basket was its portability and its use of available resources. You didn't need to carve a giant wooden tub or find a naturally occurring basin. You could create a tanning vat wherever you were, using the very material you were working with. This allowed the hides to soak evenly and for an extended period, which was crucial for the tanning agents to fully penetrate and bond with the collagen fibers of the hide. During and after the tanning soak, the hide needed to be stretched and soft. If you just let a wet hide dry, it becomes hard and stiff, like a piece of cardboard. To make it soft and pliable, you need to work the fibers as they dry. One common method was stretching. This is where stone weights come in. After the hide was thoroughly saturated with the tanning solution, it would be stretched out on a frame or staked to the ground. But to ensure it was stretched evenly and tightly, holes would be cut along the edges of the hide, and ropes or strips of rawhide would be passed through them. These ropes were then tied to heavy stones. The stone weights would provide constant, consistent tension on the hide as it dried. This constant pulling and stretching prevented the collagen fibers from gluing themselves back together into a rigid sheet. As the hide dried, the tanner would periodically work it, maybe by pulling and stretching it by hand or by working it over a stake. But those stone weights did a lot of the heavy lifting, maintaining the tension. That is absolutely essential for creating a soft, flexible piece of leather. It's a brilliant application of basic physics, using simple, readily available stones to achieve a sophisticated result. So, let's recap the toolkit. We have the bone fleshing scraper, designed to push away fat and meat. We have the Deharian scraper, perfect for removing hair and epidermis. We have the wooden beaming board, an ergonomic workbench that made the scraping process manageable. We have the ingenious hide tanning basket, a portable vat for soaking the hides. And finally, we have the simple but effective stone weights, providing the constant tension needed to soften the hide as it dries. Each of these tools, born from necessity and refined over countless generations, played an indispensable role. They represent a deep understanding of materials, mechanics, and the biological process of turning skin into leather. Without them, the transformation would be nearly impossible. They weren't just tools. They were the key that unlocked the potential within a raw animal hide. Thanks for joining me in the workshop today as we explored these incredible tools. Understanding them gives us a much deeper appreciation for the skill and ingenuity of our ancestors. Join us next time as we move on to the next chapter. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next step on this amazing journey. See you then. Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving deep into Chapter 8, Working with the Seasons. We're going to explore the incredible ways our ancestors lived in harmony with nature, specifically how their lives, work, and survival were shaped by the changing seasons. One of the most fascinating examples of this is the art of hide processing, a crucial skill that was completely dependent on the rhythmic cycles of hunting. Imagine living in a world without supermarkets or factories. Your clothing, your shelter, your tools, everything came from the world around you. For many cultures, especially those in colder climates, animals were the cornerstone of existence, and when you hunted an animal, nothing went to waste. The meat provided food, the bones became tools, and the hide, well, the hide was gold. It was the raw material for clothing, blankets, tippy covers, and so much more. But turning a raw animal skin into soft, durable leather is a complex, labor-intensive process. And the timing of this process was dictated entirely by the seasons. Let's travel north, to the vast, windswept plains, or the dense boreal forests. Here, winter was the prime hunting season. Think about it. Animals like bison or caribou would have their thickest, warmest coats in preparation for the cold. This made their hides incredibly valuable for creating winter clothing that could mean the difference between life and death. Large-scale communal hunts often took place in late fall or early winter, resulting in a sudden, massive influx of fresh hides. This is where the real work began, and it was often the women of the community who were the masters of this craft. They faced an immense challenge, a huge pile of fresh hides, and a race against time. A raw hide will start to spoil and rot very quickly if not treated. So, as soon as the hunters returned, the women would spring into action. Picture a bustling camp, fires roaring, the air thick with the smell of wood smoke and the earthy scent of fresh skins. The women would work together, a flurry of organized activity. The first step was to scrape the hides clean. This meant removing any remaining flesh, fat, and tissue. It was grueling work, often done in freezing temperatures. Imagine your fingers growing numb as you meticulously work a scraper tool, made of bone or stone, across the cold, slick surface of a hide. The biting wind whips around you, and every breath you take turns into a cloud of white vapor. The hides might even freeze solid, making them as hard as a wooden board and even more difficult to work with. The women had to use their strength and skill to manage these heavy, frozen skins, sometimes thawing them bit by bit near the fire to make them pliable enough to scrape. This initial cleaning was just the beginning. The next step was to remove the hair, unless it was being kept for a warm, fur-lined garment. Then came the crucial stage of tanning. This is the process that transforms a stiff, raw skin into soft, supple leather. There were many different methods, each unique to a culture and the resources they had available. One common method was brain tanning. The animal's own brain contains natural oils and emulsifiers that are perfect for softening the hide. The women would create a paste from the brain, sometimes mixed with liver or wood ash, and painstakingly rub it into every inch of the hide. This was followed by hours and hours of physical labor. The hide had to be stretched, pulled, and worked continuously as it dried. They would stretch it on a frame or pull it back and forth over a rope or a smoothed log. This constant motion is what breaks down the stiff fibers in the skin, making it soft. Imagine working 4 days, your muscles aching, your hands raw, all to create a single piece of beautiful, functional leather. It wasn't just a chore. It was a highly respected skill, an art form passed down through generations. The quality of a woman's hide work was a source of pride and a measure of her contribution to her family's well-being. Now, let's contrast that with life in a warmer climate. Here, the rhythm of life and work was completely different. The hunting seasons might be less defined, or a culture might rely more on agriculture, hunting smaller game year. In these warmer regions, the main challenge wasn't freezing cold, but the heat. A hide left out in the hot sun would dry out too quickly, becoming brittle and unusable, or it would spoil even faster than in the cold. So, the techniques had to adapt. Work might be done in the shade of a large tree or a specially built shelter. Instead of dealing with frozen hides, a tanner might have to work quickly to get the hide into a tanning solution before it They might use different resources for tanning, like the bark from specific trees, which are rich in tannin. The process of collecting and preparing these barks was its own seasonal task, tied to the life cycle of the plants. Think of a warm, humid afternoon. The air is thick, and the sounds of cicadas filled the background. A woman works under the cool shade of an oak or a mangrove tree. She might soak a deer hide in a stream to keep it cool and moist while she scrapes it. The tanning solution, a dark, reddish-brown liquid made from boiled bark, steeps in a clay pot nearby. The whole process is calmer, perhaps more solitary, than the frenzied, communal work of a winter camp. The goal is the same: to create durable leather, but the environment dictates a completely different approach, a different set of skills, and a different pace of work. The summer days also brought their own advantages. The warm sun, if managed carefully, could be used to dry the hides perfectly. The hides could be stretched on frames and left in the open air, with the tanner checking on them regularly, feeling for the right balance of dryness and flexibility. The long daylight hours meant more time to work, and the entire process might feel more integrated into the daily flow of life, rather than a massive, urgent project. So you can see, hide processing wasn't just a single skill. It was a whole body of knowledge about chemistry, biology, and the environment. It was about knowing which tree's bark to use, how to prepare an animal's brain, how to predict the weather, and how to work with a material that was constantly changing in response to the temperature and humidity. It was about understanding the seasons. These women were scientists and artists. They understood the properties of different animal skins, how a bison hide differed from a deer skin, and how each needed to be treated. They knew that a hide taken in summer would be thinner and have different qualities than a prime winter hide. This deep, practical knowledge of their environment is something truly. They weren't just surviving the seasons. They were working with them, using the unique challenges and opportunities of each time of year to their advantage. This seasonal rhythm shaped everything. It influenced social structures, as people gathered for large hunts, and the communal work that followed. It dictated the division of labor. It was the pulse of Jigich community. By studying these practices, we get a glimpse into a way of life that was profoundly connected to the natural world. It's a powerful reminder that for most of human history, we have lived by the sun, the moon, and the turning of the seasons. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey into the past. I hope it gives you a new appreciation for the incredible skill and knowledge of these ancestral artisans. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into history. Let me know in the comments what other ancient skills you'd like to learn about. See you next time. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our journey. Today, we delve into Chapter 9, a truly special chapter titled Knowledge Passed from Mothers to Daughters. This is a quiet, contemplative look at the beautiful and unbroken chain of tradition, where skills and stories are woven together and passed down through generations. Imagine a place where time slows down, where the rhythm of life is set by the patient work of hands and the soft murmur of voices. This is the world we're stepping into today. In this community, learning isn't found in textbooks or classrooms. It happens organically, in the shared spaces where women gather to work. Picture this: young girls, barely old enough to see over the workbenches, sit quietly beside their mothers, their grandmothers, and their aunts. Their eyes are wide with curiosity, taking in every single detail. They're not just watching, they're absorbing. They see the way a hand holds a tool, the precise angle of a scrape, the subtle pressure applied to a surface. It's a silent education, a dance of observation. The first step for these young learners is imitation. They are given small, blunt tools and scrap pieces of material. At first, their movements are clumsy, uncertain. They try to mimic the fluid, practiced motions of the older women. It's a process filled with trial and error. A scrape might be too deep, or a line might go askew. But there's no criticism here, only gentle guidance. A mother might softly adjust her daughter's grip, or an aunt might demonstrate a tricky motion one more time, her hands moving with a slow, deliberate gracie. The air is filled with patience, an unspoken understanding that mastery takes time. Slowly, over months and years, something magical happens. The clumsy fumbling transforms into confident, rhythmic action. The girls' hands start to remember the movements, developing a muscle memory that becomes as natural as breathing. They learn to feel the material, to understand its texture and its limits. They learn the language of the tools. It's no longer just about copying. It's about understanding. They start to develop their own rhythm, their own subtle style, while still honoring the foundational techniques passed down to them. They are no longer just watchers. They are becoming participants in a legacy. But this chapter is about more than just a physical skill. The time spent working is also a time for storytelling. As the women's hands are busy with their scraping, their minds and voices are free. This is when the cultural heartbeat of the community is passed on. The air fills with the myths of their ancestors, tales of creation, and the heroic deeds of figures from long ago. They share fables that teach lessons about kindness, courage, and community. They recount historical events, not as dry facts, but as living stories of struggle and triumph that have shaped who they are. For the young girls, these stories are as important as the hand motions they are learning. The tiles give context and meaning to their work. They learn that the patterns they are scraping are not just decorative. They are symbols, each with a story, each a connection to their past. The work becomes a form of storytelling in itself. A particular curve might represent a river from a creation myth, or a series of dots might signify the stars that guided an ancient hero. The scraping isn't just a craft. It's a way of keeping their history alive, etching it into the very objects they create. As the girls grow into young women, they gradually take their full place among the workers. The transition is seamless. One day, a girl is an apprentice, and the next, she is a confident artisan, working alongside the very women who taught her. She now contributes to the family and the community, her hands moving with the same practiced elegance as her mother's. And in time, she will have a young daughter of her own sitting beside her, watching, listening, and learning. The cycle continues, a beautiful, unbroken thread connecting the past, the present, and the future. This chapter is a powerful reminder of how culture is preserved. It's not always in grand monuments or ancient texts. Often, it's in the quiet moments, in the shared work, in the stories told while hands are busy. It's in the patient teaching of a mother and the eager observation of a daughter. It's a living, breathing heritage, passed not just from mind to mind, but from hand to hand, and from heart to heart. This knowledge is a gift, a sacred inheritance that ensures the community's identity and wisdom will endure for generations to come. It's a process that builds more than just skilled workers. It builds strong bonds. The shared time, the collective effort, and the interweaving of work and story create a profound sense of unity among the women. They are not just colleagues, they are sisters, mothers, and daughters bound by a common purpose and a shared heritage. This chapter beautifully illustrates that the most valuable knowledge is often that which is shared with love, patience, and a deep respect for tradition. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this incredibly moving chapter. It really speaks to the power of human connection and the timeless beauty of passing down our heritage. If you found this as fascinating as I did, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more deep dives into this amazing world. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What traditions have been passed down in your family? Until next time, take care. Welcome back to our series on traditional hide tanning. In our last chapter, we covered the initial scraping process. Today, we're diving into Chapter 10, Removing the Hair. This is where the real transformation begins, turning a raw skin into a workable material. After that first scrape, the hair is still firmly attached. To loosen it, tanners across the globe developed some ingenious methods. It's all about breaking down the epidermis, the thin layer of skin that holds the hair in place. The goal is to do this without damaging the valuable dermis, the layer that becomes leather. Let's start with the plains cultures of North America. One of their most common methods involved wood ash. They would create a lye solution by soaking hardwood ashes in water. The hide would then be submerged in this alkaline bath. The lye solution effectively breaks down the proteins holding the hair, causing it to slip right off. This process, often called bucking, had to be carefully monitored. Too long in the solution, and the hide itself could be damaged. Too short, and the hair wouldn't come loose. It was a true science, born from observation. After soaking, the hide would be draped over a smooth log or a fleshing beam, and a tanner, usually a woman, would use a dull-edged tool like the back of a knife or a specialized scraper made of bone to push the loosened hair off. Another fascinating method used by some groups was fermentation. This could be done in a few ways. Sometimes, a hide was simply rolled up, hair side in, and left in a warm, damp place. For several days, the natural bacteria on the hide would begin to break down the epidermis. A process sometimes called sweating. You can imagine the smell wasn't exactly pleasant, but it was incredibly effective. Another fermentation technique involved creating a brain soup. Animal brains are rich in emulsifying agents, like lecithin, which help break down fats and proteins. The hide would be soaked in a mixture of brains and water, which not only helped loosen the hair but also began the softening process that we'll discuss in a later chapter. This brain tanning method is one of the most revered ancient techniques, producing an incredibly soft and durable material. Now, let's travel north to the Arctic, to the Inuit cultures. Their environment demanded different solutions. They couldn't always rely on wood ash or warm weather fermentation. One of their unique methods was to use aged urine. Yes, you heard that right. Urine contains ammonia, which, when it breaks down, becomes highly alkaline. Soaking a hide in aged urine had a similar effect to a lye solution, loosening the hair for easy removal. This is a perfect example of using every available resource in a challenging environment. The Inuit were also masters of mechanical dehairing, especially for skins like caribou, where the hair was needed for insulation and other applications. They would meticulously pluck or scrape the hair without any chemical treatment if the project required it. For seal skins, which were vital for their waterproof qualities, they often used their teeth to scrape away both the hair and the epidermis, a skill that required incredible precision. Jumping across the Atlantic to early Europe, we see similar principles at play. Liming was a widespread practice. This involved soaking hides in a pit or vat filled with a mixture of water and slaked lime. Just like wood ash, the lime created a strong alkaline environment that made the hair slip. Tanneries from the Roman era all the way through the medieval period had massive lime pits. This was large-scale, industrial-level dehairing. After liming, the hides were put on a beam, and workers called beammen would scrape off the hair. Because lime can be harsh and make the hide swell, they often had a subsequent step called baiting or puring, which involved using enzymes from things like dog or bird dung to neutralize the lime and soften the hide. It was a smelly, messy, but essential part of European leather production for centuries. These methods might sound intense, but the final step is one of finesse. Once the hair is loosened, the tanner gets to work, whether using a bone scraper, a metal blade, or even a sharpened stone. The motion is a gentle but firm push, not a cut. The hair comes off in wet clumps, revealing the pale, clean surface of the hide underneath. It's a deeply satisfying moment, the first time you see the potential of the leather emerge. This step removes not just the hair, but also the epidermis and any remaining surface grime. The result is a clean slate, a prepared canvas ready for the next stage of its journey into becoming beautiful, durable leather. Each of these techniques, from the wood ash of the plains to the lime pits of Europe, tells a story of ingenuity and a deep understanding of natural chemistry. It shows how people, separated by thousands of miles in different climates, arrived at similar solutions to the same problem. The goal was always the same: to reveal the strong, clean hide waiting just beneath the hair. Thanks for joining me for this chapter on Dehar. It's a crucial and fascinating part of the tanning story. If you found this interesting, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss our next chapter, where we'll explore the different methods of softening and preserving the hide. See you next time. Welcome back to our journey into ancient skills. Today, we're diving into Chapter 11, where we explore the fascinating chemistry behind turning a stiff, raw hide into soft, supple leather. This is the softening stage, a crucial part of the hide tanning process that our ancestors perfected over thousands of years. It's a messy, hands-on, and utterly magical transformation. Forget modern chemicals. We're talking about using the very essence of the animal itself, its fats, oils, marrow, and even its brain. This might sound a bit intense, but it's a testament to the ingenuity and resourcefulness of traditional cultures who wasted nothing and understood nature on a profound level. So, you've scraped the hide clean, it's been deherred, and now it's stiff as a board. How do you make it pliable? The answer lies in lipids, fats, and oils. These substances are essential for lubricating the microscopic fibers within the hide. When a hide dries, these protein fibers, mostly collagen, stick together, creating that hard, inflexible surface. The goal of softening, or dressing the hide, is to coat every single one of those fibers with a layer of oil. This prevents them from gluing back together as the hide dries, allowing them to slide past one another. The result is the soft, flexible material we know as leather or buckskin. Our ancestors had a whole pantry of natural softening agents, all sourced from the animals they hunted. The most common were animal fats, like tallow rendered from deer or bison fat. Tallow is a fantastic conditioner. Marrow, scooped from the leg bones, was another prized substance. It's incredibly rich in nutrients and fats, making it a perfect emollient for hides. Then there are various oils. Fish oils, for example, were used in some coastal communities. Even plant-based oils like sunflower or olive oil could be used. But the real magic often came from the animal itself. Using these resources was part of a holistic system where every piece of the animal served a purpose, connecting the hunter, the animal, and the final product in a cycle of respect and utility. Now, let's talk about the most famous and perhaps most misunderstood tanning agent of them all, the brain. There's an old, traditional saying that you'll hear among hide tanners. Every animal has just enough brains to tan its own hide. This isn't just a quirky piece of folklore. It's a remarkably accurate biological fact. The brain tissue of an animal contains a unique combination of oils and emulsifying agents. Particularly lecithin is a type of phospholipid that works wonders in breaking down fats and helping them penetrate deep into the dense fiber structure of the hide. It acts like a natural detergent, allowing the oils to mix with water and be carried into every nook and cranny of the skin. So, the size of the animal's brain really does correspond almost perfectly to the amount of dressing needed for its own hide. A deer has enough brains for a deerskin, an elk has enough for an elk skin, and so on. It's nature's own pre-measured, perfectly formulated leather conditioner. The process of preparing this brain mixture, or braining, is an art form. The brain is typically cooked slightly, often boiled or scrambled to break down the tissue and release the valuable oils and emulsifiers. Some tanners might mix it with a bit of water to create a slurry, or even add other ingredients like soap root or cooked liver to enhance its properties. The consistency should be like a thick, creamy paste. Once the mixture is ready, the real work begins. This stage was traditionally the domain of women in many cultures. It was a task that required patience, strength, and an intimate understanding of the material. The application of the brain and fat mixture is not a casual affair. You can't just slop it on and hope for the best. Every single fiber of the hide must be coated. The women would lay the damp hide out, sometimes over a smooth log or beam, and begin the painstaking process of rubbing the mixture in. Using their hands, or smooth, rounded stones, they would work the greasy paste deep into the skin's grain. They would stretch the hide, pull it, and massage it with firm, consistent pressure. This mechanical action is just as important as the chemical one. It forces the oils into the fiber bundles and begins to separate them. They would work from the center of the hide outwards, ensuring even distribution. Every square inch, from the thick neck area to the thinner belly sections, had to be thoroughly saturated. It was a physically demanding job, often taking hours of continuous effort. After the initial application, the hide is often left to sit for a while, allowing the oils to fully penetrate. It might be rolled up and kept in a damp, cool place overnight. This gives the lecithin time to work its emulsifying magic, drawing the fats deep into the skin's core. The next day, the process is repeated. The tanners would unroll the hide and begin another round of stretching, pulling, and working the skin. This is the breaking stage. As the hide begins to dry, the tanners have to keep it in constant motion. They might pull it back and forth over a taut cable, a smoothed wooden stake, or the back of a chair. They might work in pairs, each person taking an end of the hide and pulling it in a seesaw motion. This constant friction and movement is what breaks the final bonds between the collagen fibers and ensures that the hide dries soft and pliable. If you let it dry without this constant work, it will just turn back into a stiff piece of rawhide. This process is a race against time. The tanner must continue working the hide until it is completely dry. You can tell when it is getting close because it will start to turn a brilliant white and feel incredibly soft, almost like chamois cloth. The final product is a beautiful, durable, and breathable material that is a direct result of the tanner's hard work and the animal's own gifts. It's a far cry from the stiff, lifeless hide they started with. The brain, fats, and oils have performed their ancient chemistry, and the patient, skilled hands of the tanner have brought the transformation to completion. This method connects us directly to our past, reminding us of a time when survival depended on understanding the world in an intimate, hands-on way. It's a beautiful process, and the resulting buckskin is a treasure. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for our next chapter. Welcome back to our journey into the world of traditional hide tanning. In this chapter, we witness a crucial transformation, a dance of tension and release, as the prepared hide moves into the final stages of becoming soft, pliable leather. This is the art of stretching, pulling, and drying, a process defined by slow, repetitive, and almost meditative motions. It's a testament to the patience and skill passed down through generations. The day's work begins with the damp, heavy hide, now ready for its next evolution. The first step is to stretch it out, to open its fibers and prepare it for drying. Often, this is done on large, sturdy wooden frames. Imagine a rectangle of timber, built to withstand immense pressure. The women work together, their movements synchronized. They lay the hide across the frame, its edges reaching towards the wooden beams. Using strong cordage, perhaps made from sinew or plant fibers, they begin to lash the hide to the frame. Each hole along the hide's edge, carefully cut earlier, now serves as an anchor point. A cord is threaded through, pulled taut, and wrapped securely around the wooden frame. They work methodically, moving from one point to the next, creating a web of tension that radiates from the center of the hide outwards. It's a process of balance. Pull too hard in one spot, and the hide might tear. Too loose, and it won't dry evenly. The women know this by feel, by the resistance in the hide, by the subtle changes in its texture beneath their fingers. As they work, a rhythm develops, the sound of cord pulling tight, the quiet communication between them, the steady, focused energy. In other traditions, you might see the hide stretched over a simple, strong rope, strung taut between two trees or posts. The hide is draped over the rope, like a heavy blanket, and its own weight begins the stretching process. This method requires a different kind of skill, a constant adjustment and repositioning to ensure every part of the hide is worked evenly. Once the hide is securely mounted, the real work of softening begins. This is where human effort truly transforms the material. A raw hide, if simply left to dry, would become stiff and hard, more like a board than a textile. To prevent this, the fibers must be continually worked and manipulated as the moisture evaporates. This is a task that requires endurance and a deep, intuitive understanding of the material. The women use specialized tools, often crafted from bone, antler, or smooth, dense wood. One common tool is a scraper with a dull, rounded edge. Gripping the tool firmly, a woman leans her weight into it, pulling it down across the surface of the stretched hide. Stroke after stroke, She works her way across the entire surface. This scraping action does two things. It helps to squeeze out residual moisture, and more importantly, it breaks down the stiffening collagen fibers within the hide. You can see the change with each pass of the tool. The color lightens, and the surface takes on a soft, almost velvety appearance. This is not a fast process. It's a slow, deliberate campaign against stiffness. The work is physically demanding, engaging the muscles of the back, shoulders, and arms. The women work in a steady, unhurried rhythm, their bodies swaying with the motion of the pull. The repetitive action becomes a kind of meditation, a focused state where the world narrows to the tool, the hide, and the feeling of the fibers giving way. Another technique involves twisting and pulling for smaller, more delicate skins, or as a finishing step for larger ones. The hide might be worked by hand. Two women might stand on opposite sides of the hide, gripping it firmly. They twist it, wringing it out like a piece of cloth. They pull it, stretching it in every direction. They might even use their feet, standing on the hide and using their body weight to stretch and soften it. This intimate hands-on approach allows them to feel for any remaining stiff spots, working them over and over until they yield. Imagine the scene. The sun is warm. A gentle breeze aids the drying process. The air is filled with the quiet, rhythmic sounds of the work. The scrape of a tool against hide, the creak of the wooden frame, the soft thud as a section is stretched. There's a quiet camaraderie among the women. They might chat softly, or work in comfortable silence. Their shared task, creating a powerful, unspoken bond. They are not just working, they're imparting a part of themselves into the material, their energy and effort becoming woven into the very fabric of the leather. As the hide dries, its properties change dramatically. It becomes lighter in weight and color. The initial slick, damp surface gives way to a soft, supple texture. The women constantly check its progress, touching it, stretching it, feeling for the moment it reaches the perfect balance of dryness and flexibility. If it dries too quickly, it can become brittle. If it remains damp for too long, it can be damaged. This is a delicate dance with the elements, a partnership with the sun and the air. Sometimes, the hide is worked over a taut cable or a smoothed, debarked log. It is pulled back and forth, seesawing over the rounded surface. This method is particularly effective for breaking down the fibers in the thickest parts of the hide, like the area along the spine. The friction generates a gentle warmth, further aiding the softening process. The motion is rhythmic and hypnotic, a steady back and forth that continues for hours. The final stage of this process is often a light, final scraping or buffing. A piece of sandstone or a similar abrasive material might be used to gently sand the surface, creating a beautiful, uniform nap. This is the finishing touch, the final polish on a piece of work that has taken days of effort. The result is not just a piece of leather. It's a material imbued with skill, patience, and tradition. It is warm, soft, and incredibly strong. It tells a story of the animal it came from, the land it lived on, and the hands that transformed it. As we conclude this chapter, we leave the women with their work. The sun begins to set, casting long shadows across the camp. The hides, now pale and soft on their frames, glow in the fading light. The slow, repetitive motions will continue, perhaps even into the evening by the light of a fire, until the transformation is complete. It is a powerful reminder that some of the most beautiful and enduring things in life are created not through haste, but through slow, steady, and mindful effort. Thank you for joining us for this peaceful look at the art of stretching and softening. We hope you've enjoyed this calming journey. Be sure to follow our channel for more chapters exploring these incredible traditional skills. We'll see you next time. Welcome back to our journey into the world of traditional hide tanning. In our previous chapters, we've scraped, deherred, and softened our hides, but now we've reached the final, most magical step, smoke tanning. This is where a simple animal skin transforms into durable, beautiful, and long-lasting bugskin. So, what exactly is smoke tanning? It is a fascinating and ancient preservation technique that uses the power of smoke to fundamentally change the hide's properties. Forget harsh chemicals. Our ancestors relied on the simple, yet profound, alchemy of fire. By exposing a properly prepared hide to the smoke from a low, smoldering fire, we're not just coloring it, we are infusing it with compounds that will preserve it indefinitely. Let's break down the science in a simple way. The smoke contains molecules, specifically aldehydes and phenols, from the burning wood, that work their way deep into the collagen fibers of the hide. These molecules are the key. They coat and cross-link with the fibers, essentially locking them in their soft, separated state. Remember all that hard work we did breaking the fibers? The smoking process makes that permanent. Without it, the moment your buckskin gets wet, it would dry, stiff as a board again. Smoke is the insurance policy that guarantees it will always dry, soft, and flexible. But the benefits don't stop there. Smoke tanning also makes the hide water resistant. The smoky compounds repel water, which is a huge advantage for clothing, moccasins, or shelters that need to withstand the elements. It's not fully waterproof like modern plastic, but it's significantly more resilient to moisture than an unsmoked hide. The smoke also acts as a natural insect repellent and has antimicrobial properties, protecting the hide from decay and pests. In essence, smoking makes the hide stronger, more durable, and ready for a lifetime of use. Now, let's talk about the setup. The most common method involves creating a smokehouse or a smoking pit. You don't need a massive, roaring fire. In fact, that's the last thing you want. The goal is a cool, dense smoke, not intense heat. A big fire will cook and ruin the hide, making it brittle and useless. We're looking for a smolder, a slow burn that produces clouds of smoke with very little flame. One traditional method is to dig a small pit in the ground. You connect this pit to a second, larger hole with a tunnel or a pipe. The fire is built in the small pit, and the hide is hung like a tippy or a cone over the larger hole. This design allows the smoke to travel through the tunnel, cool down, and then rise up to envelop the hide. Another popular method is to sew the hide into a bag or a tube, leaving an opening at the bottom. You then suspend this bag over a smoldering fire pit, so the smoke is trapped inside, ensuring it penetrates every inch of the material. The choice of wood is crucial because it determines both the color and the quality of the smoke. You want to use punky, rotten wood, often called punkwood. This type of wood doesn't burst into flame. Instead, it smolders for hours, producing the thick, cool smoke we need. Different types of wood will give different results. Pine is often favored for its rich, golden orange color. Rotten poplar or cottonwood can produce beautiful, soft tans and browns. Some tanners even mix in different materials, like sagebrush, to add unique properties and scents to the finished product. The key is to avoid hardwoods that burn too hot and resinous woods that can leave a sticky residue. Now for the most visually stunning part, the color. Smoke tanning is where the hide truly develops its character and beauty. The colors are not just on the surface. They are infused deep into the fibers. Depending on the wood you use, the duration of the smoking, and the moisture content of the hide, you can achieve a breathtaking range of earthy tones. With a light smoking, you might get a delicate, pale golden color, like morning sunlight. This is perfect for projects where you want a subtle, natural look. As you continue to smoke the hide, the color deepens. It moves from gold into a rich, warm honey brown. This is the classic buckskin color that many people picture: warm, inviting, and full of character. It's the color of traditional jackets, moccasins, and bags. But you can go even darker. With a lone, more intensive smoking process, you can achieve a deep, smoky black or a dark chocolate brown. These darker hides are not only striking visually, but are often even more water-resistant and durable because they have absorbed more of the preservative compounds from the smoke. Imagine a pair of dark, smoky moccasins that feel like a second skin on your feet. The beauty of smoke tanning is that you have complete control over the final shade. Traditionally, this delicate process was often managed by women. They were the masters of the fire, possessing the patience and skill needed to maintain a perfect smolder. They knew exactly how to feed the fire with just the right amount of punk wood to keep it from flaring up or dying out. They would carefully monitor the hide, feeling it, checking its color, and rotating it to ensure an even smoke. One moment of inattention could lead to a scorched spot, creating a stiff, brittle patch that could ruin weeks of hard work. Their knowledge was passed down through generations, a testament to the precision required for this craft. The process is a true art form. You have to constantly check the hide. You'll see the color slowly creeping through from one side to the other. A good way to check for doneness is to snip a tiny piece from the edge. If the color has penetrated all the way through to the center, that section is done. You want a uniform color throughout the entire thickness of the hide. If the inside is still white, it needs more time in the smoke. Once one side is smoked to the desired color, you flip the hide inside out and repeat the entire process on the other side. This ensures that every single fiber, from the grain side to the flesh side, is completely saturated with smoke. It's a slow and steady process that rewards patience. Rushing it will only lead to disappointment. After the final smoking is complete, the hide is taken down and aired out for a day or two. It will have a strong, pleasant, smoky, smell the scent of a campfire and the forest combined. This is the smell of authentic, brain-tanned smoked buckskin. The hide is now finished. It is soft, supple, strong, water-resistant, and beautiful. It's a material that connects us directly to the past, to the ingenuity of our ancestors who perfected this incredible method of transformation. From a raw animal skin to this incredible, versatile material, the journey is complete. We've honored the animal by transforming its hide into something useful and enduring. This buckskin is not just leather. It's a story of patience, skill, and a deep connection to the natural world. Thank you for joining me on this final chapter of our hide tanning series. I hope you've enjoyed learning about the magic of smoke tanning. If you found this interesting, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our future adventures into traditional skills. See you next time. Hey John, and welcome back to our journey into the past. Today, in Chapter 14, we're exploring the incredible ingenuity of ancient craftsmanship, focusing on how our ancestors transformed animal hides into essential items for survival. It's a story of skill, resourcefulness, and the very fabric of early human life. Imagine the biting cold of a harsh winter. What stood between you and the elements? A warm, heavy robe, meticulously crafted from hides. These weren't just simple coverings. They were life-saving garments, tailored to provide maximum insulation. And what about your feet? Trekking across rugged terrain, soft, durable moccasins, also made from hide, offered protection and comfort. Each pair was a custom fit, a testament to the maker's skill, allowing for silent, sure-footed movement, whether hunting or gathering. But the use of hides went far beyond clothing. Think about the most vulnerable members of a community. The infants. They were kept safe and snug in sturdy yet gentle baby cradles, often lined with the softest furs. These cradles could be carried on a mother's back, keeping the baby close and secure while she worked, or hung from a branch, rocking gently in the breeze. It was a perfect blend of safety and comfort, all thanks to the versatility of processed hide. Life was mobile, and people needed ways to carry their belongings. Strong, reliable storage bags were essential, whether it was for carrying foraged foods, tools, or personal items. These bags, stitched from thick hide, were the original backpacks and satchels. They had to be tough enough to withstand constant use, and the weight of their contents, a daily testament to their quality. And where did people live? Their shelters, the very first homes, were often covered with large, overlapping hides. Stretched over a frame of wood or bone, these coverings created a barrier against wind, rain, and snow. They were the original architecture, providing a warm, dry space for families to gather, cook, and rest. From the clothes on their backs to the roofs over their heads, hides were the foundation of their world. So, how did they turn a tough animal skin into all these amazing things? It wasn't magic. It was technology. The ancient sewing kit was a masterpiece of innovation. The star of the show was the bone needle, painstakingly carved and sharpened, often from the small bones of birds or other animals. These needles were delicate yet strong. Each one had a tiny, drilled eye to thread, a marvel of micro-engineering for its time. And what did they use for thread? Not cotton or polyester, but sinew. Sinew is the tough, fibrous tissue connecting muscle to bone. When dried, it can be separated into incredibly strong, thin strands. This sinew thread was pliable, durable, and would even shrink slightly when wet, pulling the seams of a garment tighter and making it more weatherproof. It was the perfect natural fiber for the job. But before you could sew, you needed to make a hole. Puncturing thick, tough leather isn't easy. That's where the awl came in. An awl is a simple but vital tool, essentially a sharp spike, often made from a shard of bone, flint, or a sharpened antler tip, sometimes with a wooden or bone handle for a better grip. The sewer would use the awl to punch precise holes through the hide, creating a path for the needle and sinew thread to follow. It was the first step in joining two pieces of hide together, a crucial part of the construction process. With these three simple tools, the bone needle, sinew, thread, and the ancient artisans could create virtually anything. They would carefully cut the hides to shape, punch a series of holes along the edges with the awl, and then meticulously stitch the pieces together. The stitches had to be strong and even, a skill that took years of practice to master. Different stitches would be used for different purposes, some for strength on a storage bag, others for flexibility on a moccasin. This process wasn't just about utility. It was also an art form. Many items were decorated with painted designs, intricate beadwork using shells or carved stones, or fringes cut into the hide itself. These weren't just objects. They were expressions of identity, culture, and artistry. A beautifully decorated robe could signify a person's status or tell a story about their family or clan. Every single item, from a simple pouch to a large shelter covering, represented hours of dedicated labor. It started with hunting the animal, followed by the long and arduous process of skinning it and tanning the hide, a complex procedure involving scraping, stretching, and treating it with natural substances like animal brains or tree bark to make it soft and durable. Only then could the crafting begin. This intimate connection to the materials they used gave them a profound respect for the natural world. Every part of an animal was used. Nothing was wasted. The hide provided clothing and shelter, the bones became tools, the meat provided sustenance. This sustainable way of life was born from necessity, but it fostered a deep understanding of the ecosystem they were a part of. So, as we look at these ancient creations, we're not just seeing old clothes or bags. We're seeing the culmination of immense knowledge passed down through generations. We're re-seeing the skill of hands that could turn the raw materials of nature into objects of survival, comfort, and beauty. It's a powerful reminder that with ingenuity and respect for our environment, the simplest tools can be used to build a world. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the world of ancient craftsmanship. It's truly incredible what our ancestors were able to achieve. If you found this fascinating, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more journeys into the past. Drop a comment below and let me know which of these ancient items impresses you the most. Until next time, stay curious. Hello and welcome back to our channel. Today, we dive in deep into Chapter 15 to explore a fascinating topic. The community economy built entirely around hide. It's a story of skill, cooperation, and the creation of a vibrant trade network that sustained entire communities. So, grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and let's unravel how a simple animal hide became the cornerstone of an economy. To understand this system, we need to start at the very beginning, with the hunt. For many traditional communities, hunting was more than just a way to get food. It was a fundamental part of life. Skilled hunters were essential. They ventured out, often for days at a time, tracking animals like bison, deer, and elk. Their success wasn't just about bringing home meat to feed their families. It was about securing the primary raw material for their economy. The hide, every successful hunt represented potential wealth, not just in terms of food, but as a resource that could be transformed into something much more. Think about it. A single large bison hide is a huge, durable piece of material. But in its raw state, it's not very useful. It's stiff, it would rot, and it wouldn't be comfortable or practical for clothing or shelter. This is where the next crucial stage of the process begins, and it's a part of the story that is often overlooked. The raw hides were brought back to the village, and here, the torch was passed to the women of the community. The women were the master artisans, the tanners, the manufacturers. They possessed an incredible depth of knowledge passed down through generations, turning a raw, stiff hide into a soft, pliable, and durable material was a labor-intensive and highly skilled process. It wasn't just a chore, it was a craft. First, the hide had to be meticulously cleaned. The women would scrape off any remaining flesh, fat, and hair. This was physically demanding work, requiring specialized tools often made from bone or stone. After scraping, the tanning process began. This is where the real magic happened. To prevent the hide from decaying and to make it soft, it needed to be treated. Different communities used different methods. One common technique involved using the animal's own brain. The fats and oils in the brain tissue acted as a natural softening agent. The women would create a paste from the brain and rub it thoroughly into the hide, working it deep into the fibers. This process could take hours, even days, of continuous effort. The hide would then be stretched. Often, it was laced onto a wooden frame, where it could be worked and stretched from all sides to ensure it dried evenly and became flexible. The women would spend countless hours scraping, pulling, and rubbing the hide as it dried. They would use smooth stones or other tools to soften the fibers, breaking them down until the hide was as soft as cloth. This physical process was essential. Without it, the hide would dry as hard as a board. Imagine the strength and endurance this required, working under the sun, day after day. But the process didn't stop there. For many applications, the hide needed to be waterproof. The final step was often smoking. The tanned hide would be suspended over a slow, smoky fire. The smoke would permeate the material, coating the fibers and making them resistant to water. This smoking process also gave the hide its characteristic color, ranging from a pale tan to a deep brown, depending on the type of wood used for the fire. Through this incredible effort, a raw, perishable animal skin was transformed into a highly valuable finished product, tanned leather. This wasn't just any leather. It was a premium material, renowned for its softness, durability, and beauty. And it was this finished product that fueled the community's economy. So, what did they make with this amazing material? The possibilities were almost endless. The most obvious use was for clothing. Tanned hides were fashioned into shirts, leggings, dresses, and moccasins. These garments were not only practical and durable, protecting the wearer from the elements, but they were also often works of art. Women would decorate the clothing with intricate designs, using natural pigments, porcupina quills, and later, glass beads acquired through trade. A beautifully decorated shirt wasn't just an item of clothing. It was a status symbol, a piece of personal expression, and a testament to the skill of its maker. Beyond clothing, hides were used to create shelter. The iconic tipi, a marvel of engineering, was made from multiple bison hides sewn together and stretched over a frame of wooden poles. A single tipi cover could require a dozen or more hides, all expertly tanned and stitched. These homes were warm in the winter, cool in the summer, and portable, perfectly suited to a nomadic or semi-nomadic lifestyle. The uses continued. Hides were made into bags and containers of all shapes and sizes, known as These were used to store everything from food to tools to personal items. They were often painted with bold, geometric designs that were both beautiful and symbolic, sometimes indicating the contents or the owner's family. Smaller pieces of hide were used to make ropes, shields, drumheads, and even cradle boards for carrying babies. Every part of the hide was used. Nothing went to waste. Now, let's talk about trade. While a community could produce all the hide goods it needed, it couldn't produce everything else. Some resources were only available in certain regions. This is where the economic power of hidework truly shines. The finished hide goods, the decorated shirts, the sturdy moccasins, the painted parfleche shoes were not just for internal use. They were valuable commodities that could be traded with other groups. Imagine a trading rendezvous, a large gathering where different communities came together to exchange goods. A group that excelled in hidework could arrive with a wealth of tanned leather products. They could trade these items for things they couldn't produce themselves. For example, they might trade with a community living in a mountainous area to acquire high-quality stone for making tools, like arrowheads and knives. They could trade with agricultural groups for corn, beans, and squash to supplement their diet of meat. This trade network was extensive. Pigments for painting and decoration, like brilliant red vermilion or deep blue indigo, were highly sought after and could be traded over vast distances. Shiny beads, first made from shells and later from glass obtained from European traders, were incredibly popular for decoration and were a major trade item. The desire for these beads further fueled the production of high-quality. This system created a beautiful economic loop. The hunters provided the raw material. The women, through their skill and labor, transformed that material into valuable finished goods. These goods not only met the community's internal needs for clothing, shelter, and storage, but also served as currency. They could be traded for a diverse range of other products, tools, food, decorative items that enriched the lives of everyone in the community. This economic model was incredibly resilient and sustainable. It was based on a renewable resource and relied on the specialized skills of different members of the community. It fostered cooperation, not just within the group, but also between different groups. The hunters relied on the women to add value to their hides, and the women relied on the hunters to provide the raw materials. The entire community benefited from the trade that their collective efforts made possible. So, the next time you see a piece of traditional leatherwork, a pair of moccasins, or a picture of a tipi, take a moment to appreciate the incredible story behind it. It's not just an object. It's the end product of a long and skillful process, a symbol of a sophisticated economic system built on cooperation, craftsmanship, and the profound connection between a community and its environment. It is a testament to how human ingenuity can transform a simple natural resource into the foundation of a thriving culture. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the economy of hidework. I hope you found it as fascinating as I do. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next chapter. We love hearing from you, so leave your thoughts and questions in the comments below. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Welcome back to our series on ancient technologies. Today, in Chapter 16, we're digging deep into one of the most fundamental tools in human history, the bone scraper. You might think, it's just a piece of bone. How exciting can it be? Well, let me tell you. These simple tools hold incredible stories about the ingenuity and daily lives of our ancestors. So, what exactly is a bone scraper? At its core, it's a tool made from the long bones of large animals, like bison, deer, or mammoths. One end is often shaped into a beveled or sharpened edge, perfect for a specific, crucial task: preparing animal hides. From the icy landscapes of Siberia to the vast plains of North America, from the caves of Paleolithic Europe to the savannas of Africa, archaeologists have unearthed countless examples of these essential implements. They are a universal thread connecting diverse ancient cultures across the globe. Let's start in North America. Imagine the Great Plains, thousands of years ago, teeming with bison. For the indigenous peoples who lived there, the bison was life. It provided food, shelter, and clothing. After a successful hunt, every part of the animal was used. The hides were especially valuable, but turning a raw, stiff hide into soft, pliable leather is hard work. This is where bone scrapers come in. Archaeologists have found caches of these tools, often made from bison leg bones, at ancient processing sites. They are so common in some areas that they give us a clear picture of an entire industry built around hide production. One of the most famous types is the flesher, a tool with a serrated or toothed edge. This wasn't for cutting, but for defleshing the hide, removing the last bits of fat and muscle tissue. The teeth helped grip the slippery material, making the job more efficient. We've found these from the Paleo-Indian period right up to historic times, showing an incredible continuity of tradition spanning millennia. Now, let's journey across the Atlantic to Europe. During the Upper Paleolithic, a period famous for its stunning cave art, people were also masters of tool-making. In places like France and Spain, archaeologists have discovered beautifully crafted bone scrapers alongside other bone tools like needles and awls. This tells us they weren't just scraping hides. They were creating tailored clothing. The scrapers prepared the leather, and the needles and awls stitched it together. This was a technological revolution, allowing people to survive the harsh Ice Age climates. The famous Magdalenian culture, for example, left behind a rich toolkit, and bone scrapers were a standard issue item. What's fascinating is how we know for sure what these tools were used for. It's not just guesswork. Scientists use a field called use-wear analysis. By examining the tool's working edge under a powerful microscope, they can see a distinct pattern of wear. Scraping a soft, pliable material like a hide leaves a very specific kind of polish. A smooth, glossy surface that's different from the wear you'd get from cutting wood or butchering meat. Think of it like this. If you use the same knife to cut bread and chop vegetables every day, eventually, the blade will show different types of wear. It's the same principle, but on a microscopic level. These use-wear analysts are like forensic detectives for ancient tools. They can see tiny micro-scratches and striations, and the direction of these scratches tells them the motion used. For a scraper, you'd expect to see scratches running perpendicular to the edge, indicating a back and forth or pulling motion. This evidence is incredibly powerful, but it gets even better. We also have residue analysis. Sometimes, microscopic remnants of the material the tool was used on get trapped in the bone's pores. Scientists can take tiny samples from the tool's edge and analyze them chemically. They've found traces of animal fats, collagen, and proteins consistent with hide tissue. In some remarkable cases, they've even found bits of ochre, a natural mineral pigment. This suggests that after scraping the hide clean, they might have used the same tool to rub pigment into it. Perhaps for decoration or for its preservative properties. It's like finding a painter's brush still holding a fleck of ancient paint. Let's head east to Siberia. The conditions here were extreme, and survival depended on having the warmest possible clothing. The Multa-Beret culture, dating back about 24,000 years, is famous for its intricate Venus figurines and dwellings made of mammoth bones. And, you guessed it, they also had a sophisticated bone tool industry. Scrapers made from mammoth and reindeer bones are common finds. The microscopic evidence here tells a story of intense, repetitive work, crucial for producing the multi-layered fur clothing needed to endure Siberian winters. The sheer number of scrapers found indicates that hide processing was a constant, communal activity. Finally, let's not forget Africa, the cradle of humanity. Some of the earliest evidence for bone tool use comes from sites in South Africa, at places like Blombos Cave and Klassie's river mouth. Archaeologists have found bone tools dating back over 70,000 years. While not all are scrapers in the classic sense, these early bone implements show the beginnings of the understanding that bone could be shaped and used for specific tasks. It marks a cognitive leap, the ability to see a raw material, not just as a leftover from a meal, but as a potential tool. So, when we look at a bone scraper in a museum case, we're not just looking at a primitive artifact. We're looking at a testament to human resilience and innovation. This tool represents the knowledge of animal anatomy to select the right bone, the skill to shape it, and the understanding of a complex chemical process turning a raw hide into a life-sustaining material. It speaks of warm clothing in a frozen world, of durable shelters, and of the social cooperation required to get the job done. These humble bone scrapers connect us directly to the daily chores and survival strategies of our ancestors. The wear on their edges is the physical trace of countless hours of labor, a silent story of effort and skill passed down through generations. By studying these patterns, scratches, and residues, we can almost feel the rhythm of the work and appreciate the profound importance of this simple, yet revolutionary, piece of technology. Thanks for joining me on this archaeological journey. If you found this interesting, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our next chapter. See you next time. Have you ever wondered what it was really like to live thousands of years ago? Not just the big events, but the small, everyday moments. What did it feel like to make the tools you needed to survive? What sounds filled the air? Today, we're diving into a fascinating field called experimental archaeology, where researchers don't just study artifacts, they bring them back to life. We're going to explore the lost art of crafting tools from bone and working with animal hides, just like our ancestors did. It's a journey that's less about dusty museum cases and more about getting our hands dirty to truly connect with the past. So, let's step back in time and rediscover the skills that built our world. Our story begins with a simple, yet essential tool: the bone scraper. In ancient times, a good scraper was the key to turning a raw animal hide into usable material for clothing, shelter, or containers. But how were they made? And how effective were they? That's where experimental archaeology comes in. Researchers start with the same raw materials. Our ancestors had large animal bones, like a deer's femur, and some hard stones. The first step is breaking the bone. This isn't a random smash. It requires a precise, powerful strike with a hammerstone to create a long, sharp fracture. The sound is sharp, a crack that echoes through the quiet workshop, a sound that would have been common in any ancient camp. Once you have a suitable bone fragment, the real work begins. The goal is to shape a durable, sharp edge. This is done through a process called knapping and grinding. Using a smaller, harder stone, the archaeologist meticulously chips away at the edge of the bone fragment. It's a delicate dance of pressure and angle. Too much force, and the bone shatters. Too little, and you make no progress. Each tap is deliberate. It's a slow, rhythmic process. Tap, tap, tap. You can see the edge slowly taking form, becoming straighter, sharper. It's not a loud or dramatic process. It's quiet, focused work. You get into a flow, your mind and hands working together, completely absorbed in the task. After the rough shape is formed, the finishing touches are applied by grinding the edge against a coarse stone, like sandstone, often with a little water. This abrasive action smooths out the imperfections from knapping and creates a surprisingly sharp, resilient edge. As you rub the bone back and forth, a fine white powder forms, and the scraping sound becomes a steady, rhythmic rasp. It's almost meditative. In this moment, you're not just a modern you're connecting with an ancient craftsperson across millennia, feeling the same resistance of the stone, the same satisfaction as a functional edge emerges from a raw piece of bone. You start to understand the patience and skill it took to create even the simplest of tools. And the result, a beautiful, functional bone scraper. Holding it in your hand, you can feel its weight, the smooth coolness of the polished bone, the sharpness of the edge you just created. It feels powerful. It's a direct link to the past, a tool made with techniques that have been passed down through countless generations, then lost, and now rediscovered. But making the tool is only half the story. The real test is, does it work? Now, we put our freshly made scraper to the test and move on to the ancient art of hide working. Imagine a freshly skinned animal, hide. It's wet, heavy, and if left untreated, it will rot and become useless. The first step in processing it is fleshing, removing any remaining muscle and fat from the inner side of the skin. This is where our bone scraper shines. The hide is stretched out, either on the ground or on a frame. Then, leaning into the work, you push the scraper across the surface. The dull, rounded edge of the bone is perfect for this. It's sharp enough to peel away the flesh and fat without tearing the delicate skin. The feeling is surprisingly satisfying, like peeling a stubborn label off a jar. The work is physically demanding, requiring you to use your body weight. You can feel it in your shoulders and back. As you work, you gain a new appreciation for the physicality of ancient life. This wasn't a quick job. Processing a single large hide could take hours, even days. It was repetitive, strenuous work. But there's a rhythm to it. The scrape of the bone against the hide, the slight give of the skin, the steady progress as you clean section by section. You can imagine an ancient family or a small group working together, perhaps chatting or singing as they worked, the air filled with the earthy smell of the hide and the steady sound of their tools. It was a communal activity, a time for bonding as much as it was for labor. Once the hide is fleshed, it needs to be This is often done after soaking the hide in a solution, perhaps water with wood ash, which helps to loosen the hair follicles. Then, you flip the hide over and get back to work with your scraper. This time, you might use a slightly sharper edge to methodically scrape away the hair, revealing the clean, pale skin beneath. Again, it's a slow, methodical process. You work in long, even strokes, and with each pass, more of the hair comes away in clumps. It's messy, smelly work, but through that mess, you are transforming a raw, perishable material into something durable and incredibly useful. The final, and perhaps most crucial, stage is tanning, which preserves the hide and makes it soft and pliable. Ancient cultures used various methods, one of the most common being brain tanning. Yes, You heard that right. Animal brains contain natural oils and emulsifiers that are perfect for tanning. The brain is mashed into a paste with water and then worked thoroughly into the hide. Every fiber of the skin has to be saturated with this mixture. This part of the process is definitely not for the faint of heart. It's slimy, and the smell is unique, but it's an incredibly effective, all-natural method. You have to knead and stretch the hide, working the brain mixture in with your hands. After the brain paste has been worked in, the hide has to be soft as it dries. This is the most labor-intensive part. The hide must be continuously stretched, pulled, and worked over a smooth post or a cable. If you let it dry on its own, it will become stiff. It's a board juice. So, 4 hours, you stretch and pull. Your muscles ache, your hands get sore, but you can feel the transformation happening. The stiff, damp skin slowly becomes soft, supple leather. It's a magical process. The hide lightens in color, becoming almost white, and takes on a texture like soft suede. When it's finally done, you have a piece of beautiful, durable buckskin, ready to be made into a shirt, a pair of moccasins, or a bag. Holding that finished piece of leather, you understand something profound. You understand the incredible ingenuity of ancient people. They didn't have chemical factories or industrial machines. They had nature, their own hands, and their deep knowledge of the world around them. They knew that a bone could be a tool, that an animal's brain could preserve its skin. This knowledge wasn't written in books. It was lived. It was passed down from parent to child, through observation and practice. It was a knowledge born from necessity and perfected through generations of trial and error. This whole process, from breaking the first bone to stretching the final hide, is a lesson in patience. In our modern world, we're used to instant gratification. We want things fast and easy. But ancient craft wasn't like that. It was slow. It was deliberate. It was peaceful. There's a deep sense of calm that comes from this kind of focused, manual work. Your mind clears, and you become fully present in the moment. You're not thinking about your email inbox or your social media feed. You're just thinking about the tool in your hand and the material in front of you. Experimental archaeology gives us a window into this lost rhythm of life. It reminds us that our ancestors were not primitive brutes. They were intelligent, resourceful, and deeply connected to their environment. They had a sophisticated understanding of materials and processes that we are only now beginning to fully appreciate. By recreating their techniques, we don't just learn how they made things. We learn about their patience, their perseverance, and their ingenuity. We get a glimpse into their world, not as a static display in a museum, but as a living, breathing reality. So the next time you see a bone tool or a piece of ancient leather in a museum, take a moment to think about the story behind it. Think about the sound of the hammerstone striking the bone. Think about the rhythmic scraping, the earthy smells, the aching muscles, and the quiet satisfaction of creating something useful and beautiful with your own two hands. It's a story of survival, of innovation, and of a deep, intimate connection with the natural world. A story that is written not in words, but in the very fabric of the objects themselves. Thanks for joining me on this journey back in time. It's incredible what we can learn just by trying to walk in our ancestors' footsteps, even for a little while. If you found this fascinating, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more explorations into the hidden corners of history. Let me know in the comments what other ancient crafts you'd like to see us try to recreate. See you next time. Step into the past with me, not to a battlefield or a grand throne room, but to a place far more intimate and arguably more important. The heart of the home, the hub of daily life. Today, we're exploring the social world of ancient labor, specifically the vibrant community that formed around the task of working hides. Forget the image of solitary, backbreaking toil. For many ancient cultures, especially the women tasked with this essential craft, the hide-working area was the original social network. It was so much more than a place of production. It was a living, breathing community center. Picture this: a group of women, hands busy, scraping, stretching, and softening tough animal skins. The air isn't silent, filled only with the sounds of their tools. Instead, it's buzzing with life. It's a symphony of voices, laughter, and song. This was where the news of the day was shared. who had a new baby, which family was preparing for a wedding. What were the men planning for the next hunt? It was the community's grapevine, a place where information flowed freely and organically. Stories were told, not just village gossip, but the grand myths and legends that held the community's history and values. Imagine sitting as a young girl, listening to your grandmother recount tales of ancestors and spirits while her hands expertly worked a deer. These weren't just stories for entertainment. They were lessons in culture, morality, and identity, woven into the very fabric of daily work. And then there were the songs, work songs, with rhythms that matched the scraping of tools, made the arduous tasks feel lighter. These melodies were passed down through generations, each note carrying the legacy of the women who had come before. They sang of joy, of sorrow, of the land, and of their families. Singing together created a powerful bond, a sense of unity and shared purpose that turned labor into a collective, almost sacred act. This space was also a school of life. Younger women and girls learned not just the practical skills of hardwork in a craft essential for clothing, shelter, and tools, but also the unwritten rules of their society. They absorbed wisdom on everything from motherhood and healing to managing household relationships. Advice was sought and given freely. An experienced elder might offer a younger woman a tip on how to soften a particularly tough piece of leather, and in the next breath, offer gentle guidance on soothing a fussy child. It was a mentorship program in its most natural form. And all around this hive of activity, children played. They weren't shooed away or sent to a separate space. They were an integral part of the scene. They would play games, mimic their mother's work with small scraps of hide, and listen to the constant flow of conversation. This was their classroom, too. They learned their language, their social cues, and their place within the community simply by being present. They absorbed the rhythms of life, the stories, the songs, and the inherent value of contributing to the group. The proximity of the children also softened the workspace, filling it with the sounds of their laughter and play, and grounding the women's work in the very future they were providing for. This chapter of ancient domestic life reveals something profound about our ancestors. It shows that the line we often draw between work and life is a modern invention. For them, they were one and the same. Labor wasn't just about survival. It was about connection, culture, and community. The hardworking area was a testament to the fact that even the most demanding tasks could be transformed into opportunities for social bonding and cultural transmission. It highlights the emotional texture of their world, a world rich with shared experience and mutual support. By understanding these social spaces, we gain a much deeper and more human perspective on the past. We see that ancient peoples weren't just struggling to survive. They were thriving in communities built on collaboration and shared identity. They found joy, meaning, and strength in working together. It's a powerful reminder that our need for community is as old as humanity itself. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the social heart of ancient labor. If you found this glimpse into the past as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. Let me know in the comments what other aspects of daily ancient life you'd like to explore. See you next time. As the sun begins its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and deep purple, a gentle quiet settles over the camp. The long day's work is drawing to a close. Here, the women move with a practiced rhythm, a silent dance passed down through generations. The air, once filled with the sounds of scraping and stretching, now carries a different tune. It's the soft swish of water as tools are meticulously cleaned, each one a trusted companion in their daily labor. The satisfying thump as a wooden mallet is set aside for the night. The scrape of stone against stone is replaced by the gentle murmur of conversation, voices low and soothing like a lullaby. One by one, the freshly worked hides are lifted and carefully hung on wooden racks. They stretch against the twilight, dark silhouettes against a fading canvas of light. Each hide tells a story of effort, skill, and provision for the family, for the tribe. They are more than just animal skins. They are blankets for the cold nights to come, material for clothing, and the very fabric of their survival. As they young, they catch the last rays of the sun, a testament to the day's successful toil. The women work side by side, their movements synchronized without the need for words. A shared glance, a small nod, an offered hand to help with a particularly heavy hide. These are the threads that weave their community together. From the heart of the settlement, thin tendrils of smoke begin to rise, spiraling lazily into the cooling air. They carry the comforting scent of burning wood and the promise of a warm meal. The central fire, the lifeblood of the camp, is being stoked for the evening. Its growing light pushes back the encroaching shadows, creating a circle of warmth and safety. Children, their play winding down with the daylight, drift closer to the hearth, their high-pitched laughter softening into whispers. The smells of roasting meat and simmering roots begin to mingle with the earthy scent of the dust and the sweet perfume of the surrounding wilderness. Twilight deepens, blurring the sharp edges of the day. The world transforms into a realm of soft shadows and muted colors. The distant calls of night birds replace the chirping of their daytime counterparts. The rustle of leaves in the gentle evening breeze sounds like a soft sigh from the forest itself. In this tranquil gloaming, the pace of life slows to a heartbeat. Conversations around the fire are not of work or worry, but of stories shared and memories recounted. Elders, their faces etched with the wisdom of countless seasons, begin to speak, their voices a calming balm. They talk of hunts from long ago, of spirits in the mountains, and of the stars that are just beginning to pepper the darkening sky. The younger women listen, their hands now busy with mending or weaving, their tasks less demanding than the day's labor. They absorb the stories, the history of their people, committing them to memory to one day pass on to their own children. There is a profound sense of peace in this shared space, a feeling of belonging that runs deeper than blood. It's a connection forged in the crucible of shared hardship and shared joy. Every person has a place, a purpose. The hunters will soon return from the plains, their tired bodies seeking the comfort of the fire and the welcome of their kin. The fire crackles and spits, casting dancing shadows that play upon the faces gathered around it. The light flickers in their eyes, reflecting the flames and the deep contentment within. The first star of the evening appears, a lone diamond in the velvet expanse above. It's a signal, a celestial marker that the day has truly ended and the time for rest and communion has begun. The worries of the hunt, the challenges of gathering, the constant vigilance against the Wilo, these fade into the background, held at bay by the circle of firelight and fellowship. In these moments suspended between the day that was and the night that will be, there is a perfect, profound calm. The world outside the fire's glow is vast and unknown, but here, within this small circle, there is everything that matters. Family, food, warmth, and stories. The smoke continues its steady climb towards the heavens, carrying with it the silent prayers and hopes of a people living in harmony with the earth. The soft murmur of voices weaves a tapestry of sound, a human counterpoint to the symphony of the wilderness. This is the end of the day, a sacred pause before the world is given over to dreams. As the moon begins its ascent, casting a silvery sheen over the landscape, the camp settles into a deeper quiet. The last of the evening meal is shared. The final stories are told. Children, heavy-lidded and full-bellied, are bundled into warm furs and carried to their sleeping places. The fire is banked, its glow reduced to a soft, pulsing heart of embers that will keep watch through the night. The women, their duties finally complete, find their own rest, their minds at ease, knowing they have provided for their families for one more day. The entire camp breathes as one, a collective sigh of a day well, and a quiet welcome to the restorative peace of the night. It is a timeless ritual, a perfect conclusion to the cycle of light and dark, labor and rest. Thanks for joining us in this journey back in time. If you enjoyed this glimpse into the past, please consider liking and subscribing for more stories from our shared history. We've journeyed through time, tracing the threads of human survival, and now we arrive at a chapter that is both a conclusion and a new beginning. A chapter dedicated to the legacy of women's craftsmanship, a story woven into the very fabric of our shared history. For millennia, the skills, the strength, and the quiet wisdom of women were not just important. They were fundamental to survival itself. Think about the world our ancestors inhabited. It was a world of breathtaking beauty and unforgiving challenges. A world where the difference between life and death often came down to having proper shelter, durable clothing, and reliable tools. And who was at the heart of providing these essentials? It was the women. Their hands, calloused and skilled, transformed raw animal hides into the very materials that built their world. This wasn't just a chore, it was a science and an art form. Imagine the knowledge required. You had to understand the properties of each type of hide bison, deer, elk, rabbit. You needed to know the precise moment to scrape it, the right combination of materials like brains, ash, or smoke to tan it, and the exact techniques to make it supple and waterproof or tough and durable. This was a body of knowledge passed down from mother to daughter, a sacred trust honed over countless generations. Let's break down the sheer physicality of this work. Fleshing a large bison hide, a hide that could weigh over 100 pounds when fresh, required immense strength. Scraping it clean, stretching it taut on a frame, and then working it for hours, sometimes days. To achieve the right texture, this was grueling, demanding labor. It built powerful muscles in their arms, shoulders, and backs. These women were not delicate figures in the background. They were powerhouses, the engineers and manufacturers of their time. But their contribution went far beyond the physical. It was deeply intellectual. They were chemists, experimenting with different tanning agents to see which worked best in their local environment. They were engineers, designing and constructing tipis that could withstand fierce prairie winds and heavy snows, yet were light enough to be moved at a moment's notice. The conical shape of the tipi is a masterpiece of aerodynamic design, shedding wind and rain with incredible efficiency. The adjustable smoke flaps at the top provided ventilation, creating a comfortable home in any weather. This wasn't accidental. It was the result of meticulous observation, experimentation, and refinement. And then there was the artistry. A finished hide was a canvas. Women adorned clothing, tipis, and bags with intricate quill work, and later bead. These weren't just decorations. They were stories, symbols of identity, spiritual maps, and expressions of beauty in a world that could be harsh and gray. A beautifully decorated robe was a status symbol, a work of art, and a prayer made visible. It communicated a person's history, their achievements, and their connection to the spiritual world. Through their art, women infused daily life with meaning and color. The hidework of women created the very culture of their communities. The tipi, the quintessential symbol of many plains cultures, was women's property. They were responsible for its creation, its maintenance, and its transportation. When a village moved, it was the women who expertly dismantled the lodges, packed them onto travois, and re-erected them at the new camp. The entire mobility of their society, their ability to follow the great herds and adapt to changing seasons, rested on the efficiency and skill of the women. Their work also fostered community. Tanning hides was often a communal activity. Women would gather to work together, sharing the labor, telling stories, and teaching the younger generation. These gatherings were social hubs, places where bonds were strengthened, information was exchanged, and the collective wisdom of the group was reinforced. In T-Space, they weren't just processing hides. They were weaving the social fabric of their people. As we stand here today, in our world of synthetic fabrics and mass-produced goods, it's easy to lose sight of this legacy. It's easy to forget that for the vast majority of human history, the clothes on our backs, the roofs over our heads, and the bags that carried our possessions were the direct result of a woman's skill and labor. We are all inheritors of this tradition of strength and ingenuity. This legacy isn't confined to the past. It lives on. It lives on in the contemporary indigenous artists who are reviving and reinventing traditional hide tanning and quill work. It lives on in the craftswomen and artisans around the world who work with leather and natural materials, connecting with an ancient lineage of makers. It lives on in the spirit of anyone who creates something with their hands, who solves a problem with ingenuity, who builds a home for their family, who adds beauty to the world. The story of women as hidework is a powerful reminder that history is not just a tale of kings and battles. It is a story of daily resilience, of quiet innovation, and of the profound, world-shaping power that lies in skilled and loving hands. It is the story of how our ancestors, through the strength and knowledge of their women, not only survived, but thrived. Their legacy is the ground beneath our feet, the shelter that keeps us warm, and the enduring thread of creativity that connects us all. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If this story resonated with you, Please like, share, and subscribe. Let's continue to uncover and celebrate the hidden histories that have shaped our world.